This is a stimulus update and daily news report. Got some great news. The government will not be shutting down. Just hours before the midnight deadline, President Biden signed off on the bill to prevent a government shutdown at least until December 3rd when they could figure everything out. When it comes to the infrastructure vote, Nancy Pelosi delayed that vote because it looks like progressives have won. Nancy Pelosi did not have the votes because progressives won that standoff, and they're holding out until that $3.5 trillion package. I'm going to play two video clips, one from Pramila Jayapal, the Progressive Caucus leader, as well as one from Bernie Sanders. When it comes to the $3.5 trillion package, Joe Manchin again says that he is not going any higher than $1.5 trillion. AOC laughs at that $1.5 trillion number. We're also going to go over this article right here. Millions of Americans could get a $1,400 stimulus check in 2022. Here's why, and I'll give you some other important updates along the way. Hope you're having a fantastic Friday. If you appreciate these fact-based, fast-paced updates, hit the like button down below. So Biden signs government funding bill hours before midnight deadline to avert shutdown. So Biden signs temporary funding bill to prevent government shutdown. What it's saying here is Congress prevented a government shutdown before midnight Thursday deadline. President Joe Biden signed a bill that funds the government through December 3rd. So surprisingly, Republicans got on board with this. They worked together. There were actually 15 Republican senators who voted to go against the government shutdown. Here's the list on the screen right here. One of them was Mitch McConnell. It makes me wonder, what were the other 35 Republicans thinking voting against the government? This is just for the government shutdown. There weren't any other measures in this, just to keep the government open. So I'm really curious what the other 35 Republicans were thinking with that. All 50 Democrats voted to keep the government open. Little dramatic too, I think, like how it's just hours before the deadline. Like this couldn't have been done, weeks ago. I don't know, it's so dramatic in Congress. Next, let's talk about how Pelosi delays vote on Biden's infrastructure bill in defeat for Democrats. So it's been a Democrat versus Democrat war recently. When it comes to the infrastructure vote, Biden fails to break Democratic stalemate, and key House infrastructure vote is postponed. So the vote was supposed to happen yesterday. Progressives threatened, saying if you have the vote, we're not going to vote for it, and it's not going to pass for the infrastructure because the progressives wanted that $3.5 trillion package first. So President Joe Biden spent the day talking to key senators and Democratic leaders in Congress, trying to break a stalemate that threatens his domestic agenda, but a group of progressive House members and two centrist Democrat senators were still miles apart on key issues late Thursday night. So House Speaker Nancy Pelosi originally scheduled a vote on the bipartisan infrastructure bill on Thursday, but postponed it because the bill does not yet have the votes to pass. So usually Nancy Pelosi will only have a vote if there's enough votes to pass it. Obviously, she didn't have it because progressives said that they are not going to vote for it. Also, Bernie Sanders, Joe Manchin, and Kyrsten Sinema fight proxy war in the House. That was basically over the infrastructure vote because the $3.5 trillion package did not have a vote first. That's where progressives said they're not going to vote for that infrastructure vote because then they would lose all leverage in that situation. Joe Manchin says his spending limit is $1.5 trillion. What he said is, my top line has been $1.5 trillion, he said, and that he doesn't want to change our whole society to an entitlement mentality. Let me know your thoughts on what Joe Manchin says. The reaction from the progressives, a little different. AOC laughs at Manchin's $1.5 trillion spending bill top line. So what happened here is AOC said for 1 year, AOC wisecracked, laughing when Manchin was asked about his top line number. The New York Democrat argued that there were a lot of games being played with this number and stressed that over 10 years, 3.5 trillion is 350 billion per year. So that's the argument with Democrats, saying that even though it is 3.5 trillion, it's over 10 years. What she also said is, most of the senators that just a few weeks ago authorized a 730-odd billion defense budget authorization for 1 year. So why is something half that size needed to be chopped down another half? So if this is really the deficit, then maybe we go after our defense spending and find our savings there instead of going after people's childcare. Let me know your thoughts on that down in the comments below. Next up is a video clip from Bernie Sanders.
The reason for that is what the president campaigned on, what the president wants, what the American people want, what 95% of the members of the Democratic caucus in the House and the Senate want, are two major pieces of legislation. And that is to rebuild our crumbling infrastructure, very important. But what is even more important to my mind is to finally address the long neglected needs of working families all over this country and tell them that Congress is listening to their needs and not just the billionaires and campaign contributors. And secondly, deal with the existential threat of climate change. We have got to do that. So I think if the legislation tomorrow is defeated, I think it will open up the opportunity for some serious discussion to go forward so that we can pass both of these very important bills.
So just explain that, because it's confusing, I think, for a lot of folks who happen to follow this. You support that bill that you think should go down tomorrow.
Yeah, that sounds a little bit crazy. That's right. I voted for it. I'm a former mayor. I know how important roads and bridges and sewer systems are. We need to do it. But the problem is, if we pass that bill tomorrow, we lose the leverage that we have here with at least two senators in order to pass the more important reconciliation bill, which will deal with the crisis in childcare. It will make community colleges tuition free. It will lower the cost of prescription drugs. It'll end the disgrace of us being the only major country not to have paid family and medical leave, and something that I have been working on. It'll expand Medicare so that we will finally cover the dental needs of seniors, hearing aids, and eyeglasses, among other things. And on top of all of that, it will be the most significant legislation to deal with the crisis of climate.
So just playing this out, you talk about the two senators. I assume you're talking about Manchin and Sinema. What then does this force them to do? If it goes down tomorrow, what does that time buy you?
Well, what it buys us is both of them work very hard, and I respect that, on the infrastructure bill. They want it passed. I want it passed. But what it says now is we are joined at the hip. And as you will remember, at the beginning of this whole process, what the president and Senator Schumer and Congresswoman House Speaker Pelosi said, we're going forward in tandem. Both bills are going forward together. That's the way this process started, and that is what we have got to do. And I think at the end of the day, we will succeed, and the American people will be very, very happy. And I want to make this point. Some people say, well, it's a very expensive bill. This bill, if I have anything to say about it, will be 100% paid for by ending the tax breaks and the loopholes that the wealthy and large corporations now are able to enjoy. We're going to end those, and we're going to lower the cost of prescription drugs by having Medicare negotiate prescription drug prices with the pharmaceutical industry.
So Bernie Sanders still sticking strong to that $3.5 trillion package and not voting for any infrastructure until the progressives get their way. Let me know your thoughts on what he said. So also, Pramila Jayapal, who is the Progressive Caucus leader, said no vote for infrastructure bill until reconciliation is passed. And that stance is probably going to strengthen even more, especially since they won this hurdle of delaying the infrastructure vote, showing that they mean business. Here is Pramila Jayapal talking more about that.
What do you say to people who feel you and Senator Sinema are holding this whole thing up?
I'm not holding it. We wouldn't have 50 votes. Basically, take whatever we aren't able to come to agreement with today, and take that on the campaign trail next year, and I'm sure that they'll get many more liberal, progressive Democrats with what they say they want.
Yes, we were not for splitting up the bill in the first place. In fact, we told everyone we knew that that was a bad idea, because what we didn't want to do is pit roads and bridges against childcare, against paid leave, against free community college. And when the decision was made to split the two bills, what we said in the Progressive Caucus, and we're a 96-member strong Progressive Caucus, we said that a majority of our members would not vote for the infrastructure bill, a much smaller bill. And while it has some good things, Joy, I would just say that, there are a lot of people who feel like the climate provisions in particular are actually negative, net negative in terms of carbon emissions. if you just had that bill. And so what we're trying to do with the reconciliation bill is make sure that's the Build Back Better Act that has all of the rest of it. That's 85% of the president's agenda in the Build Back Better Act. And so we've said we will not vote for the bipartisan infrastructure bill until we have a vote in the Senate on the reconciliation bill, because that is absolutely crucial. And we are not going to leave behind women and families who desperately need childcare and paid leave, people who need community college in order to be able to get those jobs in the infrastructure package. We're not going to leave behind climate change. And while the infrastructure bill has a little bit of money for water, the reality is the vast majority of getting lead out of water, you mentioned Flint, is actually in the Build Back Better Act. So that is why we've been so firm about it. And, our members have been amazing. They are not going to leave anybody behind. And we're going to deliver the entirety of President Biden's agenda to his desk. This isn't a liberal wish list of, things that we wish we could have that nobody agrees with us on. 96% of Democrats in the House and the Senate and the President of the United States campaigned on this agenda and now want to deliver it.
The White House reportedly is on you guys' side, on the Progressive Caucus's side. Have they signaled to you that they are on your side all the way to the point of if you got to vote against that infrastructure bill, they're good with it?
Well, they understand exactly where we are. We have been transparent. I talk to the White House regularly. I talk to them today. I talk to the Speaker regularly. This is the president's agenda, and they know that we are actually the ones who have the president's back. And I know that they have been very complimentary about that, and also about the fact that we're talking about what's in the Build Back Better agenda. I so appreciate that you put up that chart, because while people will remember a road or a bridge, and those are important, Joy, I'm not saying they're not.
For sure.
I need them in my district, but what people will really remember is when they wake up in the morning and they now can afford childcare. They now have paid family and medical leave. They now can send their kids to community college or trade school. They now have dental, vision, and hearing for their Medicare benefits. They now have a real chance to tell their kids or their grandkids that the planet is going to be here for them because we're really going to take on climate change. And so I think the White House has been We've worked very closely with the White House. We've worked very closely with the Speaker because, again, this isn't some crazy idea. This is the president's agenda that we insist on delivering for.
So the stimulus standoff has intensified. Looks like progressive flexed their muscle and actually showed that they have the power to delay the infrastructure vote, which is going to send Democrats back to the drawing board, because that means there's not going to be any bipartisan infrastructure votes anytime soon unless the progressives get their way with that $3.5 trillion package first. Let me know what your thoughts are on what Pramila Jayapal said. Next, let's get into this article right here. Millions of Americans could get a $1,400 stimulus check in 2022. Here's why. So what it's saying here is new parents will get a 2022 stimulus check. So stimulus checks will be coming in 2022 for one particular group of people across the United States, parents who had a baby in 2021. When President Joe Biden signed the American Rescue Act plan into law in March, it provided $1,400 stimulus payments for both adults and dependents, and children, including newborn babies, count as dependents who are eligible for the checks. Most people who receive the $1,400 payment for their children already, as the government based the amount on people who receive the information provided on their 2020 tax return. So basically, any new babies that were born that didn't get a stimulus check in 2021 are going to get it in 2022. Now that $1,400 check rings a bell. It's the senior stimulus, also known as that $1,400 check for seniors. How an additional $1,400 check could help Social Security recipients afford rising grocery costs. So that $1,400 stimulus check was supposed to be for seniors on Social Security, was supposed to be in that $3.5 trillion package. They tried to lobby it. They had a petition. Not really much movement. No politicians have said that the $1,400 check is going to go in that $3.5 trillion package. So looks like it's bad luck now. The package isn't completely done yet. There might be a possibility later on, but we still don't know the cost and exactly who it's going to. So I'll keep you updated on what happens with that. And that is all the stimulus news I have for you today to hopefully brighten your day a bit. Here's my daughter Bella's tip of the day.
Hi guys, this is Bella. This is the tip of the day. I'll tell you something that is very cool. That you guys are cool and I am cool. We all are cool. Because do you know why? I love you. Because that you guys make a warmth inside of me. And I love the way you do it. Because you are so nice. So that's all I wanted to tell you. Bye.
Thank you so much for watching. Appreciate all of your support. So Bella did some painting yesterday. She had her kickboxing class. Today, we're actually gonna go do some surfing at the state park. So action-packed for the kids. Hope you have an amazing weekend. Thank you so much for your support. If you wanna check out any of my other videos, you could click up here for my other channels or down here for more stimulus updates. And I'll see you in the next video. Take care, be safe. Thank you for watching.